Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Are you ready for the word?
Yes, sir.
But turn to Acts 2. We're going to leave Genesis 9 for a week or two, a couple of weeks.
Right.
As we make preparation for Shavuot or Pentecost or the Feast of Weeks. Let's begin reading in verse 1. And when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with one accord in one place. And suddenly there came a sound from heaven as of a rushing mighty wind, and that sound, filled all the house where they were sitting. And there appeared unto them cloven tongues like as of fire, and it sat upon each of them. And they were all filled with the Ruach HaKodesh, and began to speak with other tongues as the Ruach, or the Spirit, gave them utterance. And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven. Now when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together and were confounded, because that every man heard them speak in his own language. Drop down now to verse 12. And they were all amazed, and were in doubt, saying one to another, What meaneth this, or what does this mean? Verse 13, and others mocking said, These men are full of new wine. Only twice over the last 18 years have I felt compelled to seek to duplicate a study, a message, or to repeat a message that I've already done. And today's going to be that second time. This message was actually birthed at a work-related training session I was taking in Birmingham on June the 4th a couple of years ago. The instructor of the class introduced himself and then went around the room asking us all to introduce ourselves, to tell him what branch of the company we worked for, and to tell him what, if anything, we knew about the subject of the instruction that day, which was going to be telematics. My time came, and I was able to do what he asked. I said, my name is Steve Martin. I work for Cowan in the Huntsville branch, and I know absolutely nothing or very little about telematics. I did what he said, and I thought that was the end of it, but then he asked me a question that shouldn't have been hard to answer, but it was. And the question was, Steve, what do you do for fun? And I felt like he had just asked me to solve a very complicated algebraic equation in my head. It froze me momentarily. I finally stuttered and stammered and spit out an answer to him. But for the rest of the day, I could not escape that question. It just kept echoing on the inside of my head and in my heart. The question had gone like a dart into my soul. It shocked me that even though I had blurted out an answer, inside I was having trouble trying to figure out what it was I actually had fun doing. That inward turmoil started at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, and it was on a June the 4th, as I said. And so later that day, at 3:42 p.m., I got a text from Brian, and the text said, Happy anniversary. Go do something fun. And of all the things he could have said that day, the happy anniversary was fitting because it was my anniversary. But of all the other things he could have said that day, he said, go do something fun. I just spent the last 7 hours and 42 minutes trying to figure out what I even do for fun. And now he's telling me to go do that, and I don't know what that is. Now, silly as that may sound to you, I spent a lot of time that day and the next day examining my life, contemplating what it is I do for fun. You want to know what my answer was to the instructor? I said, I hunt, I garden, and I lift. Hunt, garden, and lift. Those things sounded like manly things that a manly man would say that he did for fun. However, when I think about those three things, it's true that I do them, but it's not true that they're fun. Now, I used to hunt for fun. Had a lease over here behind Buckhorn High School, and that was fun. I'd spend a lot of time scouting, spend a lot of time putting up cameras, checking cameras, spent a lot of time putting up stands, spent a lot of time with my children and with Marie, going out there and hunting, and that was fun, I'll admit, but that was years ago. I no longer have that lease. Now my hunting consists mostly of me walking into the woods beside my house and shooting varmints that eat my garden. I consider that more of a war than recreation. I didn't start the war, they did. I grow okra because I want to eat okra. But the deer eat my okra, so I have to eat the deer. So hunting isn't so much about doing something fun anymore to me. And garden, I said I garden for fun. Gardening is not fun. There's a satisfaction that comes from it, but it is by no definition of the word fun, by no definition you could come up for the word fun, that gardening is fun. Gardening is something you do by the sweat of your brow. I looked the word fun up. The dictionary says fun is that which brings enjoyment, amusement, or light-hearted pleasure. That's not gardening. If you think that gardening brings enjoyment, amusement, or light-hearted pleasure, then you're welcome to come to my house anytime you want to have some fun. And I'll allow you to have all the fun you want. I told that man I garden for fun. Now, if he had asked me, Steve, what do you do when you're not working for Cowan? That is a question I could have answered and never thought of another thing about. Well, sir, I hunt, I garden, and I lift. But he asked me, what do you do for fun? And I said, I garden for fun. Now, when I walk out to my garden and see that rabbits have eaten my strawberries or rabbits have eaten my beans, I do not experience delight and pleasure and fun. Do what?
Lightheartedness.
Lightheartedness. When I go out the next day and look and see the deer came in and took okra and mowed them down to just stumps, I do not enter into a state of mirth and merriment. Instead, it makes me mutter in anger and frustration, sounding more like Yosemite Sam than somebody who's having a delightful time. Gardening is hard, it's frustrating, it's continuous, it's unrelenting work, it's not fun. I think we all should do it. I think we all should know how to do it. But we shouldn't be under the illusion that, oh, this is going to be so much fun, let's plant a garden. No, it's going to be a lot of hard work. And lift. I told the man I lift for fun. Yesterday was leg day. Squats are not fun. I'm sore this morning because yesterday was leg day. There's never a day you wake up and say, oh boy, I get to go do legs today. Lifting is like gardening. I like the results I get from it. I like the benefits that come from it, but it's not fun. That's the reason so many people start things like the gym and then they quit. They go into it thinking it's going to be fun, and when they find out it's not fun, they give it up. It's not fun, it's beneficial. You do it because it's beneficial, not because it's fun. We sit behind desks, we sit in recliners, we sit in automobiles. Few people do anything physical anymore, and as a result, it creates health issues. So resistance training is a good thing, but you'll never last doing resistance training if you enter into it thinking, this is going to be so much fun. It's never easy, and it never gets easier. You just get stronger. But it's always work when you go in there to do it. It's hard work that brings benefits, but not fun. And leg day is the least fun day of all of them. You seldom have to wait at the squat rack. There's seldom a line there of people saying, boy, it's my turn next. Oh boy, I get to do legs. No, usually the squat rack's open. You can just enter into it anytime you want to because it's more like a torture chamber than anything else. On leg day, you learn the meaning of what Paul meant in 1 Corinthians 9:27 when he said, I keep under my body and bring it into subjection. The phrase I keep under literally says, I hit myself underneath the eye. It means to subdue or to disable in order to bring an antagonist into subjection. Our bodies can be antagonistic against us. Our bodies will argue with us and try to convince us to do things that are not good for us to do. And they'll argue with us and try to get us to not do things that we should do. My body always has the same adamant, consistent message when it comes to leg day. No, don't want to do it. Find something else to do. And so every leg day I have to subdue it, bring its antagonistic resistance into subjection and tell it what it's going to do. Not let it tell me what we're going to do. The point being, no leg day has ever been enjoyable, amusing, and full of lighthearted pleasure. But I told that man I lift for fun. What is it you do for fun? Cut grass? No. Prune, spray, fertilize fruit trees and grapevines? No. Build fences and hen houses and feed the chickens? No. Use the tractor to bush hog and the box blade the driveway? No. I do all of those things, but none of them are fun. What do you do for fun? I didn't know how to answer that man and was greatly troubled by the answer I'd given. And after thinking about it, I don't think I'm alone. I think that for most of us, life puts so many demands on us, there's not a whole lot of time to even think about what might be fun, much less go do what's fun. That's not to say that we don't weave elements of enjoyment into all of the toil we have to do, but much of what we do is better described by these words: work, toil, responsibility, chores, study. Most of what we do isn't just defined by words like fun. And that's okay. Yahweh put man in the garden, gave him a lot of responsibility. He told him there was work to do. Yahweh expects us to work. Genesis 2, verse 15. Yahweh Elohim took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. Yahweh took the man, put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. That's the reason he put him there. To keep it means to guard and protect it. To dress it is the Hebrew word abad, and abad means to work, to till, by implication to serve. To work, to till, or to serve. And that's what gardening is. A few years back I was talking, y'all remember Rusty and Suzanne Messersmith, several years back now actually. But I was talking to them and he asked me, he said, what are you going to plant this year, Steve? And I said, I have a lot of things to get done this summer, so I'm not going to plant as big a garden as I usually plant. I ended up planting one as big as I always plant, but my intention was not to. But I went on to say this to them as we were having that discussion. I don't plan on planting as big a garden. I said this to them. I said, I have learned that every seed that I put into the soil demands a certain amount of my time. Every seed demands time. Well, that goes back to the Hebrew word abad, translated dress it, dress the garden. Yahweh put them in the garden and said, serve it. That's what you do when you plant seed. The garden doesn't serve me, it yields a harvest, but I serve it. Hear the word, it yields a harvest. There's a lot of work that has to go into forcing a garden to yield its harvest. It doesn't do it automatically, and it won't do it willingly. The seed wants to, but there's bugs and diseases and briars and weeds and deer and rabbits and sometimes drought and sometimes too much rain. There's a lot of things that fight against that seed being able to do what it was designed to do. So you have to serve that seed, protecting it so it will yield to you the harvest you want. Here's my point. Yahweh expects us all to work and have responsibilities, and for our lives to be full of productive activity. And He knew that these responsibilities and demands on our lives would make it hard for us sometimes, many times, to find time for fun. He didn't put Adam in the garden and say, "There you go, son, go have fun." He put him in the garden and said, "Go to work." When Noah got off the boat and saw all the destruction, Yahweh didn't say to Noah, "All right, saved you now, go have fun." He told Noah, "Go to work." Told him exactly the same thing He said to Adam. Yahweh expects us to work. He expects us to toil. A man who doesn't work shouldn't eat. But Yahweh does not want our lives to be all work and no play. And that's why He throws 3 parties a year. He throws 3 parties a year and invites us to come to those parties and have fun with Him. In Leviticus 23, there's a list of appointed times. These yearly moedim is a Hebrew word. These yearly moedim are most commonly called feast. And there's one weekly moed. But the Hebrew word is moed. And moed doesn't mean feast, though we call them feast. Moed means an appointment. The moeds are the Sabbath, Passover, unleavened bread, first fruits, Pentecost, Yom Teruah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. Those are the moeds. Those are appointments that Yahweh has set aside to meet with us. He wants to meet with us once a week on the Sabbath. And He commands us to stop working. I told you to work 6 days. 7th day, stop it. No more work. Come hang out with me. Come hang out with my word. Come hang out with one another. Rest, let your body recover. You think you're busy? Well, so is He. But He has inked in a weekly appointment just for us to meet with Him. He loves us and cares about us so much, He says, let's meet on the 7th day of every week, and He never cancels the meeting.
Right.
Never. He said, I want you to rest. It's not a day for work. It's a day to assemble together to receive help and instruction from me and from one another. There's a parable told by our Messiah in Luke chapter 22. I'm sure you're familiar with it, where a certain man made a great supper, a great feast. And he sent his servants out to call all of those who had received previous notice that there was a feast to come where all things would be made ready for them. But when the servant went to call them, they all had excuses for why they would not or could not come. One said he had just bought a piece of land and needed to go see it. He bought it, but now, after buying it, he needs to go see it. One said that he just bought a yoke of oxen and needed to go prove them. One said that he had just married a wife and he wouldn't be coming. The man who had prepared everything for this great feast was very upset that those he had invited had chosen not to come, and so he sent his servant into the highway and hedges and invited the poor, the maimed, the crippled, and the blind. And that great man said, none of those who were bidden shall taste my supper. Well, weekly, Yahweh has a standing appointment where He invites us to stop piddling with our oxen, to stop checking out our land, and to put down our new wife's honeydew list, and to stop everything else we're doing, come sit down with me, he says, and taste the good things that I've prepared for you. Meet with me once a week. What a shame it is that so many create excuses not to do that. Now, resting, that should be something we do for fun. What do you do for fun? Boy, I rest. And I like it. It's amazing how many people resist resting. That should be something we do for fun. So Yahweh sets weekly appointments, but then he lists 7 more invitations in Luke 23. 7 more invitations to appointments with him. Those appointments are on the 14th day of the first month, on the 15th day of the first month, on the 16th day of the first month. And then he says, count from the 16th day for 50 days, and let's have another appointment. And we're in day 42 of that 50-day count. We're on Sabbath number 6, counting toward day 50 and 7 Sabbaths. So Yahweh said, count from the 16th day for 50 days, and let's have another appointment. Then on the first day of the 7th month, let's meet. Then on the 10th day of the 7th month, let's meet. And then on the 15th day of the 7th month, come hang out with me for 7 days. And on the 8th day, we'll have a big celebration. Amen. These are all invitations from Yahweh himself to us to meet with him. And if you don't pay attention to the Hebrew words that Yahweh uses when he sets up these appointments, you miss an extremely important fact about these feasts. There are 7 yearly Moedim. Moedim gets translated as feast. But that's not what Moedim means. What does Moedim mean?
Appointed times.
Appointments or appointed times. Exactly. But within these 7 Moedims, Yahweh pulls 3 of them out and designates them by a different word. He designates them by the Hebrew word Chag, spelled C-H-A-G, more pronounced like a K-H-A-W-G, Chag. He designates 3 of them as Chags. And Chags are feasts. They're celebrations. These are listed in Deuteronomy 16. Why don't you turn there? Unleavened bread's called a Chag. Sukkot's called a Chag. And Pentecost is called a Chag. You'll find it in verse 10 of Deuteronomy 16 and in verse 13 of Deuteronomy 16. But all 3 of them are summarized together in Deuteronomy 16:16. So let's read that one together. 3 times in a year shall all your males appear before Yahweh your Elohim in the place where he shall choose. In the feast of unleavened bread and in the feast of weeks, also called Shavuot or Pentecost, and in the feast of tabernacles, also called Sukkot, and they shall not appear before Yahweh empty. And there in verse 16, those 3 words translated feast are not the word Moedim, it is the Hebrew word Chag. 3 of the 7 Moedim, they're still Moedim, but they also have the special designation as being known as Chags. Yahweh specifies these 3 as being different. The distinction Yahweh made is lost in most translations. It shouldn't have been just translated as feast. Well, it should be translated as feast. And the other should be translated as appointments or appointed times. A Chag is a festival. To get an understanding of what Yahweh meant when he used that word, all we have to do is look at the instruction he gave concerning Shavuot or Pentecost. So look down in verse 9. Or look up in verse 9. We were in verse 16. Look in verse 9. 7 weeks shall you number unto you. Begin to number the 7 weeks from such time as you begin to put the sickle to the corn. And you shall keep the feast of weeks unto Yahweh. your Elohim with a tribute of a freewill offering of your hand, which you shall give unto Yahweh your Elohim, according as Yahweh your Elohim has blessed you. And you shall rejoice before Yahweh your Elohim, you and your son and your daughter and your manservant and the maidservant and the Levite that is within your gates, and the stranger and the fatherless and the widow that are among you in the place which Yahweh your Elohim has chosen to place his name there. And you shall remember that you were a bondman in Egypt, and you shall observe and do these statutes. Notice three things he said about this Chag. He said, keep this Chag with a tribute unto me, keep it with rejoicing, and keep it by remembering that you were in bondage. A tribute is an overflowing liberal offering, and he said, as Yahweh has blessed you, give. He said, you shall rejoice. Not, there will be an opportunity to rejoice if you want to, or there'll be an opportunity to rejoice if you feel like it. No, it says you shall. Strong says this word means to brighten up, be gleesome, or literally he said it means, Strong said it means to be blithe. B-L-I-T-H-E, blithe. We'll talk about blithe in a moment. And he said, and remember, you used to be a bondman. Used to be means I'm not anymore. I'm free. From that instruction, there's no doubt whatsoever when Yahweh uses the word Chag, he is saying there are 3 times a year that regardless of what's going on in your life, regardless of what you're having to deal with, I expect you to come meet with me and let's have fun together. And Pentecost is one of those times. Yahweh said, mark that on your calendar. I'm going to bless you throughout the year. So you mark it on your calendar, 50 days from the 16th day of the first month, 50 days from there, I want you to meet with me and I want you to bring an offering according to how I've blessed you. And then he said, I want you to be blithesome, rejoice. And I want you to remember you used to be a bondman to a master you could not free yourself from, but you got set free because I loved you and I purchased you free. So let's celebrate that together. Let's have fun every year on this day. When you think of Pentecost, what do you think it means? I think we have all kind of ideas of Pentecost, and we try sometimes to make it too serious, though it is very serious. Yahweh says, I want you to think about having fun. Next Sabbath, we will, Sabbath afternoon and evening, we're going to mark that 50th day, and we're going to come together and we're going to meet with Yahweh and we're going to have fun. We're going to have a Chag. Now, how do we do that? Here's how we do it. Number one, we bring a liberal offering to Yahweh. Some of the most fun I have is when we give offerings to Yahweh and then we wait with great anticipation for Him to tell us what to do with it. That's fun. And I think the first year we ever did this, He told us to send it to 119 Ministries, and we did, and that was fun. Then He told us to send it to Jamie Bauer and to see how that was received and responded to. That was fun. Once He told us, and we were at Conrad and Lisa's house, He told us to divide it up among the children. That was fun. Sometimes we're giving it to families in need. Sometimes we've distributed it among you. It's fun to give to Him who has given so much to us. It's fun to be able to, what I'm saying, it's fun to be able to cooperate with Yahweh. And give what we gave to Him to whom He says to give it. We give it to Him, then we wait on Him, and He says, okay, here's what I want you to do with it. And you put it there. It's just fun to watch Him work and to know you are cooperating with Him, because wherever there's a need for Yahweh and need of a man. Now, if giving's not fun, there needs to be adjustments in your life, because Yahweh loves a cheerful giver. Not one who gives begrudgingly, or as the Bible says, out of necessity. Oh, I've got to. No, somebody that cheerfully does it. He has fun watching us have fun giving. The next thing we do at ACOG is he commands us to take this day, and the King James says rejoice. Strong says the Hebrew word there, actually it is samak, and that Hebrew word means to be blithesome. When King James translated it and looked at samak, they chose rejoice. When Strong's looked at that word, they said the word really means more be blithesome. Listen carefully to the definition of the English word blithe. Blithe means to show a casual and cheerful indifference considered to be calloused or improper. Show a casual indifference considered to be callous, or show a cheerful indifference considered to be improper. Here's what Yahweh is saying by the use of the word samak. He's not saying that he expects that every year when we come to this party that he's set up for us, that everything in our life is going to be perfect. That everything's going to be just the way we want it to be. We've got no health issues. We got no stress. We got no family issues. We got no problems at work. Everything is just perfect, and so it's easy to just be cheerful. Some years when we come to this appointed COG, our lives may be the very opposite of wonderful and perfect. Yahweh knows that life can sometimes have sorrows, pains, and great difficulties, but here's what Yahweh requests of us. He says, for just one day, enter into a state of blithesomeness. Be blithe. In other words, what he's saying is, when it comes to your troubles, when it comes to your pains, when it comes to your heartaches, sicknesses, sorrows, and diseases, when it comes to the challenges you face, when it comes to work issues, when it comes to family issues, on this day, I want you to show a casual indifference to all of that. So much of a casual indifference that when others look at you and know what you're going through, they think it's improper for you to be acting happy. They think it's callous that you could even dare smile knowing what you're facing. Yahweh said, do it anyway. The troubles will be there tomorrow. True. Or maybe they won't. Maybe He'll wipe them away. But just take a day and unload it from you. Yahweh said, and let's just enjoy one another's company. Yahweh says, do it for me and do it for you, and let's enjoy our time together. Choose to have fun on purpose with me at my party, Yahweh says. Do you remember reading what we read earlier in Acts chapter 2, verse 13? When those in Jerusalem saw what had happened to those in the upper room, what was the first thought they saw, or first thought they had when they saw those men who were coming out of the upper room? Thought they were what? Thought they were drunk. That says to me that they considered Pentecost to be a time of celebration. And they thought those old boys just got an early start. Peter didn't say, well, we don't drink. Peter said, man, it's just 9 o'clock in the morning. We ain't started yet. Right? That's what he said. It's too early in the morning for that. But they thought they'd got an early start on the celebration. But it says to me that those who understood Shavuot or Pentecost understood it to be a COG, a celebration, a fun time. The third thing Yahweh said for us to do is remember that you used to be bondmen. I think it's too easy to forget what Yahweh's done and is doing on our behalf. I think sometimes we feel overwhelmed and concerned about the direction that the world is going. But Pentecost is to be a day that we remember what Yahweh has done. And if we remember what Yahweh has done, we'll have confidence in what He is going to do. On the day of Pentecost, Yahweh gave us two amazing, wonderful gifts. What did He give us on the day of Pentecost? Two amazing, wonderful gifts. Say again. Gave us Torah. And in Acts 2, the Ruach HaKodesh. I remember, oh gosh, this is decades ago, reading in some book where some guy said, well, you know, the Jews have this tradition or this belief that Torah was given on the day of Pentecost. Well, it's not a tradition or just a belief. If you track it through the book of Exodus, you see that's exactly when it took place. Torah was given on the 50th day. It was given on Shavuot or Pentecost. That's what Pentecost marks. And we know that when the day of Pentecost was fully come, the Ruach HaKodesh was given with precision and power. So Pentecost, we have two amazing gifts from Yahweh. Pentecost is a time to remember that Yahweh gave us His instruction. He gave us His Son. He gave us His Spirit. So how can we lose? If He be for us, who can be against us? We don't remember enough. Or we don't understand enough what He's done and is doing. Go to Isaiah 9. Verse 6. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon His shoulder, and His name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty Elohim, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. That's usually where people stop. But listen to verse 7. Of the increase of His government and peace, there shall be no end. Upon the throne of David and upon His kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth even forever. The zeal of Yahweh of hosts will perform this. Did you catch what that said? Of the increase of His government and peace, there shall be no end. His rule and reign and His peace will increase more and more, never decrease. There will never be an end to the increase. There will never be an end to the increase of His rule. There will never be an end to the increase of His reign. There will never be an end to the increase of His peace. Yeshua said, all power and authority have been given to me in heaven and in earth. So that's all power everywhere, all authority everywhere. He's the King of all kings, and He's the Lord of all lords. And every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess that He is Lord. He's seated at the right hand of the Father. His enemies are being made a footstool for Him. He will subdue all kingdoms and bring every heart and every power into subjection to Yahweh. The increase of His government and of His peace, of it there shall be no end. How is that possible? Verse 7 said, the zeal of Yahweh will perform it. That is, Yahweh is determined with a determination that cannot be overcome to make it happen. That is, sometimes it looks dark, sometimes it looks like we're losing, sometimes it looks like Satan's winning, but make no mistake about it, Yeshua, His power and rule and authority and kingdom is increasing more and more. Yahweh said, think about that. Remember that. You were in bondage, I got you out of it, I made you mine, I redeemed you, I entered into a covenant with you. I gave the Torah to you. I gave the Ruach to you. I gave my Son to you. I've set my Son at my own right hand. All enemies shall be put under Him. He shall subdue them all. Of His kingdom and of His reign, there'll never be an end. Of His peace, there'll never be an end. Think on that, and let's get together and just celebrate. Amen. Hallelujah. Come have fun with me. Let's celebrate the victories of the past. And while we're at it, let's just go ahead and celebrate the victories that are to come. Because they're just as sure as those in the past are. What do you do for fun? Well, I wish I had known enough to tell the instructor that day, well, every Sabbath I have an appointment where I rest from all my labors. And I gather with like-minded people to fellowship with the Creator and the Redeemer. I wish I'd have known enough to tell him on the 14th day of the first month I have an appointment, which is Passover, and I remember and rejoice that I've been redeemed by the precious blood of the Lamb. I wish I had told him that I have an appointment on the 15th day of the first month, which is unleavened bread, where I remember and rejoice that his unleavened truth endures forever. I wish I'd have told him that on the 16th day of the first month, which is first fruits, I remember and rejoice that my Savior conquered death, hell, and the grave, and he rose from the dead to become the first fruits of all who believe in him. And that we can understand we will rise too. I wish I'd have told him that I have an appointment 50 days past the 16th day of the first month, which is Pentecost, where I give thanks for Torah and for the Ruach HaKodesh that instructs and empowers me to walk rightly in the sight of my Creator. I have an appointment on the first day of the seventh month, which is Yom Teruah, where I shout for the coming remedy, where Yeshua shall descend from heaven and defeat every enemy of Yahweh. I have an appointment on the 10th day of the seventh month, which is Yom Kippur, where I give thanks that the ungodly shall be removed and rendered powerless to oppose anymore, and that I will be found to be not guilty because the guilt for my sin was borne by my Savior. I have an appointment on the 15th day of the seventh month, which is Sukkot, and I celebrate the coming day when the New Jerusalem shall descend out of heaven, and Yahweh shall dwell among us forever. What do I do for fun? 7 times a year and every seventh day, I meet with my Elohim. That's what I do for fun. Yahweh bless you and keep you. Yahweh make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yahweh lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. As his name is put upon you, so shall he himself bless you.